Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over an article titled Cat Fights Over Handbags and Tears in the Toilets. With her woman-only TV company, this producer thought she'd kiss goodbye to conflict. So this story is about a woman who started her own production company, and she thought it was a really good idea to have an all-woman company, all female employees, to promote the sisterhood. And as you can probably imagine, it wasn't before long before all hell broke loose. So I'm going to go over this article here, and you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about here. And it really makes me think of the saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So it starts out saying, over in one corner sat Alice, a strong-minded 27-year-old who always said what she thought, regardless of how much it might hurt someone else. And the other corner was Sarah, a 30-something high flyer who would stand up for herself momentarily, then burst into tears and run for the ladies. Their simmering fight lasted hours, egged on by spectators taking sides and fueling the anger. Sometimes other girls would join in, either heckling aggressively or huddling defensively in the toilets. It might sound like a scene from a tawdry reality show such as Big Brother, but the truth is a little more prosaic. It was just a normal morning in my office. The venomous women were supposedly the talented employees I had headhunted to achieve my utopian dream, a female-only company with happy, harmonious workers benefiting from an absence of men. Good luck. It was an idealistic vision swiftly shattered by the nightmare reality. Constant bitchiness, surging hormones, unchecked emotion, attention-seeking, and fashion rivalry so fierce it tore my staff apart. When I read the other day that Sienna Miller had said there was no such thing as the sisterhood, I knew what she meant. I can understand why people want to believe that women look out for each other, because with men in power at work and in politics, it makes sense for us to stick together. Well, logically, you would think that's what would happen, but we all know it doesn't work that way. In fact, there was a time when I believed in the sisterhood. But that was before women at war led to my emotional and financial ruin. 5 years ago, I was working as a TV executive producer, making shows for top channels such as MTV, and based in Los Angeles. It sounded like a dream job, and it could have been if I'd been a male. Working in TV is notoriously difficult for women. There is a powerful old boys network, robust glass ceiling, and a majority of bosses with misogynistic males. And by the way, guys, this article is from 2009. Okay? And I'm going to give a big shout out to Ash for sending this to me, because even though it's 11 years old, I thought it was hilarious and brilliant to show you exactly, what can happen, get a whole bunch of women together, and have people have these great idealistic views, and then when they try to when reality sets in, they see it's not going to work. So obviously it's 11 years old before Me Too and all that. She goes on to say, gradually, what had started out as a daydream, wouldn't it be great if there was no men where I worked, turned into an exciting concept. I decided to create the first all-female production company where smart, intelligent, career-oriented women could work harmoniously, free from the bravado of the opposite sex. In hindsight, I should have learned the lessons of my past. At my mixed secondary school, I was bullied by a gang of nasty, name-calling girls, so I knew only too well how nasty groups of women could become. This shit doesn't just stop in junior high school. This goes on forever. Okay, I've had girlfriends where, they had a couple really good friends, and there was no bullshit, but they also hung out with other girls. And usually the bigger the group, there was a lot more crap. And that's where the term frenemies came from. You don't get frenemies with guys, you get it with women. Because guys don't tolerate that shit, but women do. And let's be honest here. If we're really being honest here, women are drawn to drama the way a moth is drawn to a flame. It's the absolute truth. Anybody says I'm full of shit, obviously haven't been around a whole bunch of women together. Just the shit talking and the BS, it's unbelievable. Goes on to say, and working in TV, I met lots of super competitive door slammers who do anything to get to the top. But I told myself that with the right women, work could be wonderful. So in April 2005, I left my job, remortgaged my house, freeing up close to £100,000, and began paying myself £700 a month to set up a utopian business. Obviously, she's from the UK. Having worked extremely hard for 12 years, I had lots of experience and a good reputation. What could go wrong? Says here, I hired a team of 7 staff and set up an office in Richmond upon Thames, Surrey. Obviously the UK here. While the women I interviewed claimed to be enthusiastic by the idea, they still insisted on high salaries. Fair enough, I thought at the time, they are professionals. And I knew most of them were talented and conscientious because I worked with them before. But within a week, 2 cliques had developed. Those who had worked together before and those who were producing new ideas. 1 week, the bullshit starts. Most days would bring a pointed moment when some people were invited out for lunch or a coffee break, and some weren't. Nothing explicit was ever said, but the cutting rejection was obvious enough. Even when we all went to a pub after work, strict divisions remained, made clear according to who sat where and around the table, and who would be civil or not to whom. Like a bunch of children. It's amazing. Fashion was a great divider, though in this battlefield everyone was on their own. Hideously stereotypical and shallow as it sounds, clothes were a huge source of catty comments, from sly remarks about people looking overdressed to the merits of their fake tan application. I always felt sorry for anyone who naively showed off a new purchase in the office, because everyone would coo appreciatively to their face and then harshly criticize them as soon as they were out of earshot. This happened without exception. I'm not surprised. Not one bit. My deputy, Sarah, the general manager, first showed how much style mattered when she advertised for an office assistant and refused to hire the best qualified girl because she could not distinguish Missani from Marc Jacobs. This girl would have been making tea and running errands. But I didn't challenge the decision not to hire her because I had a policy of picking my battles carefully. She's the boss. She shouldn't have to pick battles. That's another problem. The office was like a Milan catwalk, but with the competitiveness of a Miss World contest and the low cunning of a mud wrestling bout. A fashion spat ended one friendship when Sarah and our young development researcher received the same surprise Christmas gift, a Chloe Paddington bag worth £900. This is back in 2009. That's a lot of goddamn money for a stupid bag. When they clocked the matching bags in the office, it was like pistols at dawn. They forced few compliments, but relations never recovered, to the expense of my company. Another time, when 2 members of staff brought the same jeans, one proclaimed, "They look better on me because I'm a size 8 and she's a 10. It didn't take long for the office to become divided between the girls who wore makeup and those who didn't. Comments from the former were typically, "Doesn't she know what spot cover-up is?" Or, "Has she ever met a hairbrush?" While the no makeup clan were equally biting with comments behind their backs, naturally, such as people on the morning bus must think she's a prostitute, or she looks like a slapper. This should have given the lady a clue real quick. Maybe you should start hiring some guys. Because guys don't do this bullshit. Are guys perfect? No. But you don't get a bunch of guys together and pull this kind of crap at work. You know, this makes me think, I've had a couple girlfriends over the years that love those reality shows, The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. And if none of you guys don't know what they are, basically in the show The Bachelor, a whole bunch of women compete for one guy. And they all live in one house or mansion, and it's never-ending drama. They're always fighting, there's factions, never-ending shit. Now, of course, we all know darn well that the network eggs on these fights, and they strategically pick out women that aren't going to get along, to boost ratings. And then there's the other show called The Bachelorette, where a whole bunch of guys compete for this chick, and they all live in the same house, and it's night and day difference in terms of drama levels. I mean, there's going to be some conflict with the guys, but hardly any. But with the women, it's never-ending fights and drama, and the different girlfriends I had would sit there and text their friends while they're watching the show, or they talk about it, because they love the drama. Like I said, women are drawn to drama. It's crazy. And they act and behave like little kids. Goes on to say, the obsession with appearance meant nearly all the staff were on diets. If I bought a tuna mayonnaise baguette for lunch, I would overhear staff commenting that I was a pig. I'm a size 12. And she's the boss. They're talking about her. Should have fired him. Two of the skinny girls were snidely about the largest girl. I'd kill myself if I got that fat. One of the assistants got her own back on the food police for several weeks by pretending to buy them fat-free lattes, which are really full fat. Employees considered it acceptable to take time off for beauty treatments and not out of their holiday allowance. One girl regularly came in late because she was getting her hair colored, and when I mentioned this, she blew up in outrage. Though at least she had a reason, most just turned up late regardless and huffed, "That's the time my train gets in," if I pointed at the clock. Well, you can see here going through this article, this business owner obviously didn't have very good experience managing her employees, because from day one, she should have been laying down the law with these chicks. And if there's any bullshit, you're out of there. But unfortunately, she learns the hard way. I wonder if this was her first company. It had to be. She goes on, in hindsight, I can see I should have been more strict. Well, at least she knows. My idealism was my downfall because I tried to see the best in people. I was convinced they would behave as they were treated, so I treated everyone kindly. Yeah, well, unfortunately in life, a lot of people will mistake kindness for weakness. It happens all the time. I mean, I talk about it here in this channel with guys, they give and give and give to their wives or girlfriends, and all they do is take, and they see it as weakness. And it just gets worse. It says here, a little subcategory, snide comments. If I'd have been more cynical, I would have been more successful. I was often out trying to win contracts, but back in the office, work was an afterthought. It came second to conversations about shopping, boyfriends, and diet. Oh, and spiteful comments from my two development researchers who were sharpening their acrylic nails against another staff member, Natasha. 6 months after the company's inception, tension spilled over when one of the researchers took Natasha's laptop and refused to return it. That day I was forced to cancel my meetings and return to the office to patch up relations. Though Sarah, my general manager, was present, she refused to get involved because she didn't want to be the bad cop. Despite being in charge, she was scared at the prospect of being bitched about. It was as though in a woman-only environment, staff were unable to keep their defined roles. Soon arguments became a daily occurrence. It would start with snide comments between two people, then as others joined in, emotion and anger would grow until an eruption. Shouting, screaming, swearing, which always left someone in tears. Then the friends of the woman who was upset would follow her to console her, leaving one group in the office and another group in the ladies. Both would bitch unreservedly about each other and do absolutely no work. It reached the point that I even wrote a handbook for staff on how to be nice to each other. The advice centered on being respectful to everyone and treating people equally. Taking phone messages properly, whether the call was from me or a junior. Writing a handbook and being nice to each other, this sounds like something out of kindergarten, but obviously you have to do it with these people. I also said there should be no more criticizing or whispering in the office. But although when people read it, they said they loved the idea, but it made no difference. Big surprise. Many of the women were aggressive or defensive, or both. The most aggressive masked a host of insecurities with their outgoing nature, with the defensive ones opening up only when provoked. The worst type I encountered, however, was the passive-aggressive. She didn't seem to be mean, but is the worst of the pack, ruthlessly bringing you down in such a sweet and unassuming manner that you don't realize what she's done until long after the event. Wow, what a great place to work for. This sounds like a brilliant idea. Goes on. Next category, broken hearts. She conceals her bitchy words in flowery phrases. One of my staff told another, sweetly, I don't mean to be a bitch, but I just can't bear to be in the same room and breathe the same air as you right now. Ouch. But the biggest force wasn't personality type. It was hormones. When one woman started having IVF, she unleashed her rage without warning and without apology. They never apologize. Please. At that time of the month, which in an office staffed only by women meant someone was always at that point. Any bad mood was swiftly passed on to the rest of the team as if by osmosis. Hormones came second as an excuse for absence and bad temper only to love life problems. When one woman split up with her boyfriend, I was told in no uncertain terms by her that I must be super understanding and sensitive toward her at work. In an email she sent me, a true drama queen, her tears went on for a week. Well, as I've said before in other videos about women and weakness, this woman who started this company thought it was a great idea, this utopia of all women working under one place, and the sisterhood would work together and make something great. They obviously could sense weakness in her, and they've completely taken advantage of everything it was worth, and you can see what I'm talking about. So it isn't just against guys. Naturally, her enemies in the office delighted in her broken heart. Another girl juggling two relationships at once frequently primed everyone in the office about what to say to whom whenever either of the men called the office. Another woman had a voracious sexual appetite and in an all-female only environment saw nothing wrong with screeching across the open plan room details of her marathon sex sessions. I received frequent complaints about her crude language. Well, these are British chicks, and British chicks can be pretty vulgar and say what the hell they want. Every other word out of their mouth is fuck. I can still remember the name of all my staff's partners and their affairs because it interfered with our work so often. Professionally, however, the company was somehow thriving. We secured 2 program commissions, one with ITV and a series with Living TV, so we could afford new offices in West London. But this brought another explosion from Sarah when she paid out for a parking permit while another girl was given a free space by the building's landlord. During a massive row, Sarah said the girl had overstepped her rank, while the girl told her it was just tough. They never spoke again. The effect a lack of testosterone was having in our office was even more apparent when I temporarily hired 2 male directors to work on a series. And it says here in parentheses, camera operators are usually men because of the heavy equipment. The team suddenly became quieter, more hardworking, and less bitchy. Partly because they were too busy flirting. 2 girls openly went after one director, even though he had a live-in girlfriend. His partner didn't stand a chance against their relentless flirting, and was dumped when one of them won his affections. When we had meetings with men, staff turned ferocious, each out to prove that they were the sexiest in the room. With a male commissioner at Channel 4, one employee said, "Watch this," then stuck her hand down her bra and tweaked her nipples. The man and I were speechless. In this climate, I didn't dare employ any men because of the distraction and, even worse, catfights they created. I hate how much that sounds like stereotyping, but I'm afraid that's what I found to be true. Well, in life, a lot of times stereotypes are right on the money. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. I know a lot of people get bent out of shape about that. But there really is a lot of truth to a lot of the stereotypes. Not always, but a lot of the time. That's been my experience in 42 years on this planet. But I absolutely do my best to never go into a situation judging somebody in those regards ahead of time. But it is, I gotta admit, sometimes amusing when they are right on the money. And if anybody's offended by that, fuck off. Goes on to say, And while I stand by my initial reason for excluding male employees, because they have an easy ride in TV, if I were to do it again, I'd definitely employ men. In fact, I'd probably employ only men. See right there? You learn the hard way. Better to have a whole bunch of guys, just like in those shows I was telling you about. The all-male groups that are competing over the woman, minimal drama. The whole female groups competing over the guy, it's crazy. Making close to $500,000 in our first year should have meant profit, but this was wiped out by high salaries and accounting errors by staff. Then when we began having cash flow problems, Sarah signed herself off sick with stress for a month. She also confessed she had been dodging calls from people who were due payment, thus ruining my firm's reputation. By then, I was back and forth on a plane between Britain and the US, dealing with fractious staff in London and barmy LA producers. My general manager was nowhere to be found. Bills hadn't been paid, and the tension in the office was palpable. To pump extra cash into the business, I sold both my cars, but it was too late, and we went bankrupt in March 2007, less than 2 years after I formed the company. That's a shame, but I'm not surprised. Though I will not absolve myself of all guilt, I believe the business was ruined by the destructive jealousy and infighting of all female staff. Their selfishness and insecurities led to my company's demise. When I needed the so-called sisterhood, believe me, it just wasn't there. Well, that goes to show you about these idealistic views and people putting them into play and what happens. And you mix it with money, you can have disastrous results. And, of course, you see what happens when you put all these women together. And they said they're in their 20s and 30s. Didn't matter. They behave like a bunch of freaking junior high girls. And it doesn't change. And I've seen this countless times. But I thought that was very interesting to read. And I guarantee you, again, like she said, if she had an all-male staff, she'd probably still be in business today and be very, very wealthy. But that's that. So that's it for today, guys. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I will talk to you next time.